Hi everyone, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Eva. In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a comfortable, stylish and oversized shirt as you can see on your screen. So please watch to the end to see how I made it. Thank you to all my subscribers for always being here. If this is your first time here, you are most welcome. Please kindly subscribe to join the family. To make this shirt, I use this beautiful Adire fabric. It's actually a two-piece, but for the sake of this video, we are going to be focusing on the shirt. To create my shirt patterns, I use this paper for both the front and the back patterns. Now I'm taking the length of my shirt. For the front length, I took 30 inches. Now I'm going to take my button allowance, which is 2.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead to draw the lines, to connect the lines. And then the next thing is to start creating my basic bodice pattern. For the neck width for the back, I took 1 inch for the height and then 3 inches for the width. And then I input my shoulder measurement divided by 2, came down 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'm trying to create a basic bodice pattern. I am so sorry, this will not be a detailed tutorial on a basic bodice pattern. I have a video of that on my channel. Please click to watch so that you understand what I'm doing here. It's just a basic bodice pattern. I'm trying to get all my basic body measurements, my actual basic body measurements without any allowances. So after creating this, I connected the lines. Now it's time to start drafting our oversized shirt. I created this basic bodice pattern first as a guideline for when you want to create oversized shirts for different sizes. You first of all create the basic bodice and then add the extras. So now from my shoulder, I'm going to come out 3 inches. This 3 inches is based on how oversized you want your shirt. You can go out 2 inches or 2.5 inches. For me, I came out 3 inches. And then from my armhole depth, I came down by 3 inches. Now I'm going to go out again from there by 3 inches. I went out 3 inches from my shoulder slope, came down 3 inches from my armhole depth, connected the lines, the straight lines, and then I'm going to get my arm extension. I went out 3 inches. I hope you understand it. Now I'm going to find the midpoint of my armhole depth. And then from there, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch and connect the lines. That curve will be only for my back curve. I'm going to create my front curve too. So after creating my armhole curve, what I'm going to do is to measure what I have and then measure it down and then connect the lines. So after that, I added 1 inch for my hemming allowance. Now from the hem of my pattern, I'm going to go up 4 inches. You can go up more if you want, but 4 inches is okay. And then from there, I went in 1/2 inch, connected the lines. Now I'm going to create a curve. This is not compulsory. You can decide to leave your shirt straight like that, but I think this looks better. Now I'm going to create the yoke for our shirt. And to do that, from my shoulder line, I came down 6.5 inches, that is 6.5 inches, to create the yoke for my back. And now I'm going to create my front neck depth. From there, I came down 3 inches and still maintained the 3 inches width I had for the back. So now I'm going to create my front arm curve. And to do that, from the midpoint, I came down 1/2 inch, as you can see. Remember for the back on, that is the midpoint. Then from the midpoint, I still came down another ½ inch to create my front arm curve. So from there, I'm going to go in 1 inch. For the back, I went in ½ inch, but for my front, I went in 1 inch. I hope this is not confusing. Please watch what I'm doing if you don't understand me. Now we have 2 curves, one for the front and one for my back panel. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come down from my shoulder 1 inch. I'm not going to cut this off until after cutting my back panel. So but I'm just creating it. This will serve as an overlap for our front. So it's when I'm cutting my front panel that I'm going to cut this off, but I just want to include it there. I will explain better when I cut on my fabric. So now I'm cutting just my back panel. Please watch what I'm doing. I'm not cutting the front panel. I'm cutting just the back. Now I'm going to fold my button allowance, the 2½ button allowance, because it's just my back panel I want to cut. But before I do that, I'm going to first of all trace out my yoke on another paper, and then I'll cut this out. Now I'm going to bring my back pattern and I'm going to fold the yoke because I had already traced it out on another paper, and then I'll use these patterns to cut on my fabric. Now I've cut on my fabric. As you can see, the back panel is longer than the front pattern because I said my back was going to be longer, and I added ½ inch all around for stitching allowance. And then at the back, you can see I gave allowance. This is because my back is going to have a slit. So I'm going to open up that folded edge, and then I'm going to measure where I want my slit to end. Now I'll sew and leave that place open. And then for my yoke, I added ½ inch for stitching allowances. And then at the shoulder, I added 1½ inches because I will cut out that 1 inch that I added when I was drafting the pattern. You see that 1 inch I added, I'm going to cut it out for when I'm cutting for my front. So that is what I added at the back. I hope this is not confusing. Instead of 1 inch, instead of ½ inch for stitching allowance, I added 1½ for stitching allowance because when I'm cutting my front panel, I'm going to remove that 1 inch I added when I was drafting, and then that is what I added here. So you remove 1 inch for your front pattern and then add that 1 inch that you removed at your back panel. Now I'm going to go ahead to trim off the front pattern so that I can be able to cut out my front panel. I hope you're understanding. Now I'm going to trim off that 1 inch. Remember, this 1 inch that I trim off for my front is what I added here. I hope you understand me now. So for the back shoulder, I have 1½ inches instead of just ½ inch for stitching allowance. So I've used my pattern to cut out my front panel. I added soft stay on my button allowance. So now I'm going to fold my button allowance. I folded ½ inch first and then the rest, making sure to stop at that 2½ inches allowance. So I'm going to go to the machine and match this down. I also added soft stay on my yoke. For my yoke, I cut out 2 pieces. One will serve as a facing and the other one as a yoke. And then this is the rest of my back panel. Remember the allowance I added? That is what I'm going to use and sew my slit. I'm just trying to measure where my slit is going to stop. So now I've sewed down my button allowance, as you can see. And then for the back panel, I also sewed and stopped where I want my slit to stop, as you can see, and then folded the rest for a clean finishing. Now I'm going to join my yoke to the other part of my back panel. And to do this, I'm going to fold my yoke like so and get the midpoint of my yoke. I'll also do that for my yoke facing. And then I'm going to place my yoke like so, and then get the other part of my shirt right side facing each other. I'm going to match the midpoints. Then I'm going to get my facing and then also match the midpoint. Then I'm going to go to my machine to sew this down using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I have joined my yoke to my back panel. I also did a top stitch on the facing of my yoke. The next thing to do is to join both my front and my back panels together at the shoulders using just 1/2 inch. So here I've joined them at the shoulders. I'm going to trim off the seam of the front panel. And then I'm going to fold the seam of the back panel to just stitch it down to create a clean finishing. So after that, before I join my shirt by the side, I'll first of all measure around my armhole so that I can create my sleeve. So this is me measuring round my armhole, both my front panel and my back panel, both the front and back armhole. I'm measuring them together. So now I will go ahead to create my sleeve. To create my sleeve, I came down from the top of my paper 1 inch and created like a start point. So from that line that I came down, I still came down by 3.7 inches and then drew out the line. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to get whatever I measured round my arm, both the front and the back, and then I'm going to divide them into 2, as you can see me doing. So whatever I got, I'm going to start from the tip of my paper to whatever I got. I think I got like 26. So 26 divided by 2, I had 13. So you saw how I placed my tape from the beginning of my paper to wherever the number I got when I divided it by 2. So I'm going to connect the lines from that 13 inches to the beginning of that 1 inch that I came down to. And then I'm going to find the midpoint of that 13 inches. So the midpoint of that 13 inches should be 6.5. So I got the midpoint, and now I'm still going to divide the other part, find the midpoint of the other half. I hope you understand. And then find the midpoint of the remaining half. So now that I've divided them, from that midpoint, from the first mark, as you can see, I'm going to go up 0.7. Then at the midpoint, I went up by 0.5. And then at the last stage, I went down 0.2. Just 0.2. And then I'll connect these lines. After connecting the lines, go ahead and get your sleeve length. And then you're going to input your round sleeve measurement with your desired allowance. I think I added 2 extra inches to my round sleeve. So now connect this and then cut out on your fabric. So I cut out 2 pieces for the 2 sleeves, making sure to cut it on fold. So the next thing to do is to create our sleeve cuff. And to do this, we are going to measure around our wrist. How loose or how fitted this is depends on you. So for me, I got 10 inches divided by 2, I have 5 because I'll be cutting it on fold. So I took out 5 and then I determined how long I wanted my cuff. I went with 4 inches. So for the width is 10 divided by 2 is 5 because I'm going to cut it on fold. So I took 5 inches and then 4 inches as the length. I'm going to go ahead to cut out this and then use it to cut out on my fabric. After trimming out your cuffs, the next thing to do is to get your sleeves. Place them right sides facing each other. Now decide which part you want to be your front. And any part you decide, you're going to trim it down by 1/2 inch. Remember when we were making the pattern, the front was 1/2 inch deeper. The front arm curve was 1/2 inch deeper than the back. So that is what I'm trimming out right now. And then come to the back side. You're going to make a slit, like your sleeve slit. So I went up 3.5, and then from the edge, from the back edge, I came in 3.5. And then I'm going to make a slit. Then I'm going to use a bias. I use the fabric to create a bias. As you can see, make sure it's a little bit stretchy so that it will be easy for you to pipe. I use it to pipe the sleeve, and then that is the cuff. I'm going to get it, like I cut 4 pieces, 2 for each, and I'm going to fold that place and then sew around where I just showed you. Now I've piped my sleeve and I've also sewn round my cuff. You see that part that I folded, I ironed it down. So I'm just going to trim off the cuff, as you can see me do. After this, I'm going to turn it out and then give it a good press. Now get your shirt, join them by the side using the allowance you added when you were cutting. Also get your sleeve, join them by the side with the allowance you added when cutting. After joining them, you're going to run a loose stitch at the hem of your sleeve. This you will use to do gathers to fit into your cuff. Remember, our cuff is 10 inches. So we are going to gather our sleeve so that it will suit into the 10 inches we cut out. Now after drawing my gathers, I'm going to place it right sides facing each other, making sure that your gathers are well arranged and even. You wouldn't want one place to be more gathered than the other place. So now you're going to carefully arrange this to the end of your cuff, and then you're going to sew it to the cuff using 1/2 inch. So I've attached my cuff to my sleeve, as you can see. I'll turn this out, and then I'm going to tuck in the seam of where I sewed inside the rest of the cuff. The iron part is already looking flat and looking good, so I'm just going to march down a straight line all around my sleeve, my cuff. Now it's time to attach it to my bodice. Find the apex of your sleeve and notch it, and then you are going to attach it to the shoulders of your shirt. Please watch carefully. The shoulders of your shirt is not where your seam started. It will be at that 1 inch overlap. Please hold your shoulders like this, hold your shirt like this, so that you find out where it is. It is 1 inch above your normal shoulder seam that you joined, because of that 1 extra inch that we added when we cut out. I hope you understand this. Don't attach your sleeve to the shoulder seam. You're going to attach it 1 inch after your shoulder seam. Okay? So now we are going to find out where the front. Remember when you trimmed out 1/2 inch for your sleeve, you're going to make sure you're matching the front side correctly to the front side of your shirt bodice. And then you're going to pin this and sew and attach your sleeve to your bodice. So after attaching the sleeve to the shirt, the next thing to do is to create our shirt collar. But unfortunately, I did not show how to attach this collar to our shirt. Maybe I will create a detailed tutorial on how to create and attach a shirt collar. So the first thing to do, you're going to measure round your neck. make sure you measure like 2 to 3 times just to be very sure of the measurement, okay? And when you're done with that, you're going to use it to create on your paper first. So I got my paper. I'm going to draw a straight line. I already have a straight line on this paper, so I'm just going to start creating. So the first thing to do is to divide whatever you got around your neck. I got 19.5 divided by 2. I had 9.7. So I placed it on my paper, and then I will also divide that 9.7 by 2. So starting from the edge of my paper, I'm going to find the midpoint of that 9.7, as you can see. And then from that 9.7, I'm going to go up half an inch. Then I'm going to use my ruler and connect from that half an inch to the midpoint of my paper. Remember, what we are creating is our collar stand, not the actual collar. So after connecting this, we have to determine the height of our collar stand. For me, I took 1 inch all around. So you see how I am placing my tape? So you're going to place your tape when you get there to the half inch you came off from, not the straight line. So you will not have a straight line after creating this. I'm just making sure where I stop is that 9.7 inches. So now I'm going to connect this using my ruler. Then at the end of that line, I'm just going to give like a little curve. This is not compulsory, but I guess it looks better. So I'm just going to give a little curve and then cut out my collar stand. Next is to create our actual collar. You can see the line I already drew out. So from there, I'm going to place my tape and mark out the 9.7 that I got when I divided my round neck width by 2. And then I'm going to decide how high I wanted my collar. I went with 2.5 inches for the height of my collar. And then I'm going to connect these lines. Then from that 9.7 inches, I'm going to go in by 1 inch and then connect the line from there to the edge of the upper part. I hope you're seeing what I'm doing. Then from the beginning of my paper, I'm going to go up half inch and then connect it with my ruler to the middle or to the mid of that paper. If you don't understand me, please watch what I'm doing. So when I'm done connecting this, all I'm going to do is to cut out my collar, and I'll make sure to cut it out on fold when I'm cutting on my fabric. But sadly, like I said, I wouldn't be showing how I attach this to my shirt. Maybe I will create a detailed tutorial on how to create a shirt collar and how to attach it on your shirt. Till then, thank you so much for watching up to this stage. I really appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, please do me the kind favor of subscribing to my channel and liking this video. Until next time, see you. Bye.